Welcome to the Finding the Magic podcast, where books come alive. I'm Tricia Copeland, a fiction author and host of this show. If you love books, finding great reads, and hearing about the story behind the story directly from the authors, this is the place for you. Whether you like fantasy, science fiction, dystopian, or romance titles, I think you'll find something to love in my playlist. Listen in to discover something magical about a book or two today.
Welcome, Patrick.
Thanks very much for having me, Tricia.
Thank you for being here today. We have upcoming, well, I guess you already are an author. I already say you already are an author. Author Patrick MacPhee. He won L. Ron Hubbard's Writers of the Future Award for episode. I'm going to get this wrong. It's not episode 41. It's issue
volume.
41, right?
Issue's fine. I think I'm cheating. I have the book here. So
okay.
This one says volume. I was saying
Volume
issue for the
41.
longest time as well.
So tell me about that award. Tell us how you enter it, what's in the book. Obviously, it looks like a physical book, and a little bit about that.
Sure. The award or the contest runs every quarter, so it runs 4 times a year. And if you are not professionally published, and they have some guidelines on their website, but I'll go over the quick ones. 3 professional short story credits. I believe that's 8 cents a word now, the standard pro rate. So if you have 3 stories, 8 cents a word or above, you're a pro. So this is not for you. If you've published a book, either traditionally or self-published, I believe it's 5,000 sales views, something like that, you'd be considered a pro as well. So this is for the rest of us who are amateurs, who like sci-fi fantasy, but we're trying to break into it, so to speak. And I submitted a story, funny story with that. I wrote a novel and I submitted my prologue because I thought, oh, this prologue is pretty good. I'll send that off there. And I was very proud of it. I had placed in the contest previously as a semi-finalist, so I thought for sure this is going to do really well. Didn't, got rejected, but I realized that a prologue is more of a trailer to a movie rather than a complete beginning, middle, end story. And I don't want to, give away all the secrets of the contest, or maybe I do. I don't know. But for people who are thinking about entering the contest, they seem to like stories that can really stand on their own. They have clear characters who grab you. There's a character arc. This character is growing in some way throughout the story, and there's some background thing going on, typically a sci-fi fantasy, some kind of speculative element. And if you have that complete beginning, middle, end, then those are the stories that tend to place. So I wrote my story, and it was funny. I got this phone call from Joni Labakwi a few weeks later, and she's the contest coordinator. She makes all the phone calls. And at first, I was trying to get a hold of her. I got this, phone call from California. Oh, wait a minute, hang on. And she gives me this call, and she's like, "Oh, Patrick, you're a finalist." I'm like, "Oh, wow, okay." I mean, I was just trying to place again after I got rejected in the third quarter. I wanted to come back with a solid story, which I did. A finalist, that's great. And she says, "I'll call you back in a few days and let you know how you placed." And they were a very long few days. And I'm not exactly an anxious person. Okay, my wife is looking at me. Maybe I am an anxious person, but I think strategically sometimes. So I'll go through all the possibilities and kind of, get them out of my mind like a little pensive thing. So I'll say, okay, if I'm just a finalist, but I didn't place, well, that's too bad, so sad, but I'm just going to get back to writing a story. That's fine. And if I'm second or third place, that's awesome. I get to go down to Hollywood for this whole workshop with all these writers. Um, and I don't have any pressure of going for the grand prize, which all the first place winners of each quarter, they go for the grand prize uh, in the gala in Hollywood, and they do it like the Oscars. They have the envelope and they open it up and they leave you in suspense until then. And I wouldn't have to worry about that being second or third. So I went through all these possibilities, never thinking that I would be first place in the quarter. So she told me, Patrick, you're first place in the quarter. I thought, I had to have her say, "Can you say that again? Like, you're first." I'm just, what? Really? It's one of those things that the story felt easy to write, but a lot of authors I talk to say that that's normal, that when you it's almost like almost a video game. I play a lot of video games. When you go up a level, things get a little bit easier, or it's like driving a car where so many of the things that you do driving a car you don't think about anymore. And yet if you put a new person behind the wheel, they're really shaky. They're trying to figure things out. Whereas I think in writing, I'm finally at a place where a lot of stuff is intuitive now. And so that's how I got into the contest. I can talk more about what we did in California and the gala and the workshop if you like. I can go over the anthology as well, whatever you like.
Well, congratulations, first of all. And
Thank
I
you.
think it is very hard to write a short story. As a novelist, I submitted a story to an anthology and it was supposed to be like 6,000 words. And they were like, oh no, this isn't going to work. And I thought it was great. Like it was kind of an outtake from one of my series. And it really, I mean, and for people who love the series and was reading the series, they were like, this would be perfect. But this is for someone who doesn't know anything about your world. So I had to like completely rewrite it, cut it down to the bare bones of the story. Like you
Mhm.
didn't have offshoots and subplots and something happening off screen. You only had the main characters, their character, their story arc, their plot arc, and their resolution, and that's all. But it was really like difficult for me, and I was like, but what about this? And they were like, no, no, no.
Oh yeah.
No, what about this? No shiny objects in the background.
I've
So
I've
it
I've
was,
heard a metaphor about stories versus novels. It's not mine. It was one of Brandon Sanderson's videos. He had a guest speaker talking about short stories. I don't recall her name, but this is hers. It's not mine. And she likened writing a novel to watching the Olympics. And you get the whole Olympics experience from the opening ceremonies to all the various athletes going through and then the closing ceremonies. Whereas a short story is just someone on the rings, they do the flippy flip and they stick the landing and everyone's applauding. And it's just, it really zoomed in on that critical hinge moment in that person's life. And that can be really tough to do, especially if we like to just build everything up and, sit in a world for a while, savor it, smell some of the food being cooked and talk to people. It's a, it's definitely a growing experience, that's for sure.
interesting. So what is your story about? Tell us a little bit about it.
Sure. My story is a sci-fi comedy. So we have 22-year-old Terry Johnson is not having a good time in life. He's stuck in this dead-end pizza delivery job. And I picked it early to mid-20s because that's the age when in some cases, our dreams for our lives start to diverge from where life is going. And that's what Terry is finding until he literally crashes into the ultimate get rich quick scheme himself from the future. He's traveled back in time to teach himself how to invent time travel. And just the very idea, I don't know if you've seen the Bill and Ted movies or that when they have the time travel fights at the end, I set up a gun, dude. No, we did that. And it kind of spirals into ridiculousness in there's a little bit of the genie out of the bottle, be careful what you wish for, even some monkey's paw aspect, because this guy, as he starts to control and manipulate the future, well, it doesn't go his way and potentially other Terrys from multiple timelines are coming back and they have different opinions and they're all kind of arguing with each other. No, this should be me. This should be me. And it's kind of like a tornado in a phone booth sort of structure. It just spirals and spirals and spirals. And I won't reveal what happens, but it's, I mean, people tell me that they laughed through it, which I really wanted that to happen. I wanted people to be able to pick up this story, sit in their favorite chair, have a glass of whatever they like, and just read a fun story for 20 to 30 minutes. And I think I accomplished it. I am told comedy can be a very hard genre. There are only few ways for comedy to go right, and there are so many ways for comedy to go wrong. But I think with this story, even if you strip out all the jokes, all the banter between the characters, it's a fundamental core story of a young man who's struggling to find his way in the future. And he's trying to figure out what direction should my path go. And there's this weird multiple ghosts of Christmas future going on as people are trying to tempt him toward, whether it's money and power or fame and artistic fulfillment or even just family. There's all these things he has to choose from. But I really enjoyed writing it, and I hope people enjoy reading it.
I'm sure, yeah, it sounds amazing. And again, very hard to write. So kudos to you. But I think
Thanks.
don't you think this is a great setup for your author to launch your author career? I mean, you're writing, or maybe you finished your novel now. Um, what is that, and will that release?
Well, I have a novel finished. I finished it before. Well, yeah, I sent the prologue in. I thought, yeah, the prologue will be great. No, not so much. But it's a fantasy. It's a young man. He gets kicked out of magic school, and then he gets framed for killing the king. He's not having a good day. And his only chance to survive is to uncover all these secrets of magic. And he has to uncover this ancient conspiracy as well, because they want to, save the rest of us by freeing us from the burden of being alive. They think they're doing us a favor by destroying reality. And a lot of people tend to like reality. So he has to kind of battle with that as well. And that's where that one is going. A little bit on the heavy side. It's about 130 something thousand words. And people tell me it's too big. And maybe it is, but at the same time, this is a book I've been writing for years. The characters in this book actually pulled me back to writing. I had sort of not necessarily given up on writing, but I kind of moved on with my life. I focused on career and family, and I had this book in the back of my mind, and these characters were just like, "Hello, we're we're still here,"
Or
and
maybe.
I just, it's the weirdest thing, but I felt that I was letting them down if I waited so many years in the future that might not happen until I wrote them. So I buckled down, I read all the stuff on writing and, books, courses and whatnot, and I wrote this book. It's in the query trenches right now. I'm sending it out to agents. I might pitch editors as well to see if they want that kind of thing. And whatever happens, I'm confident that I've finally written the book that my characters deserve, which it is so much fun reading that. And I've already started writing the second one. And of course, it's a series. I was a young man. I was 18 years old. I was watching some fantasy TV show. And by then, I had read so many fantasy and science fiction just books all over the years that it's not that this particular show, I think it was like the Merlin miniseries with Sam Neill. It was not very memorable. The sci-fi was a little wonky, but that was like the snowflake that fell on the snow pile that started the avalanche going. And I thought, I could do this. I'm going to write something. So there I am, 18 years old, roughed out on this really poor notepad, this 5 book fantasy series, because I was an arrogant young man too. But it took decades, but the first book in that series is actually finished, which is really cool. And one thing I've noticed, because I thought I'll just write this thing and then it'll be out there and I can, okay, I've done the writing thing. It doesn't work that way. A few years ago, there was a couple of kids, and they were having a party, and they did an invite on Facebook. And when you invite people to an event on Facebook, apparently you can have the settings. You can have friends, friends of friends, or everyone. And they accidentally clicked on everyone, which sent it out to the whole world. So that weekend, they had all kinds of people coming from, towns all over. Must have had 500 people at this house. The police were called. It was crazy. And it could be an urban legend, but it's hilarious either way. But that's kind of what's going on in my head right now. I've especially with the Writers of the Future workshop that we had down in Hollywood, I've really aligned my thinking with that of a writer where I'm seeing stories everywhere. And I mean, I'm sure you find it as a writer as well. Just once you have that particular mindset, you just let it grow, let it spiral, and then suddenly there's all these people coming to the party. It's getting really crowded up there, but it's a good problem to have.
It is. It's a lot of fun. And I think you're saying what a lot of authors experience. Like the more you're thinking about your characters and your storyline, the more ideas that are coming to you and the more that grows.
Oh yeah. It's a it keeps building. But all I can do is just keep putting my work out there. I have some stories I'm working on. I'm working for a story for the Bain Fantasy Fiction Contest, which closes in a few days. There's a few others. I find that almost when a magazine opens and it gives me just a few more days, that deadline really helps to focus me because I know I need to get stuff there on time. And it it's just I'm still kind of new at this, so I'm still overwhelmed by it all. I'm like if you've ever seen videos of the newborn deer just trying to stand, it's all shaky and there's these big trees and these big creatures around who've been doing this for years. But for me just to have a story that a few days ago it was nothing, just absolutely nothing. And now not only does it exist, but there's characters who I've grown to care about. There's a whole lore behind this. I could dig into this if I want and expand it into a novel. That's just such a cool feeling being able to do that. I get how people can find it addicting as well.
It
It's
sounds like you're already there. You've already passed that point.
oh yeah, head first for sure.
Well, tell me, and the name of your novel is Circle's End, is that right?
Yeah, yeah,
So
that's
tell
the
me a
working
little bit
title.
about the characters and premise of that.
Sure. So I've got there's two young men principally, and one is a war orphan, and he was taken in by the family of his older brother. So I've got Kavik. He doesn't have a last name. Jessom Durrell. He's part of the proper society. He has a last name and all that. Kavik really despises these elves who destroyed his life. They killed his parents. They messed up everything. They won the last war against this kingdom that he's in. Um, he doesn't realize that he actually is one of these elves, that not all elves have pointed ears, that actually a lot of them have rounded ears as well. And they also happen to be telepathic. So he's been in this predominantly human city his whole life, slowly going insane because he's picking up on these telepathic emanations from everyone all around him and he's not fitting in. And finally, he realizes, someone tells him like, "Hey, you're actually not human." And he's freaking out, dealing with all these identity issues, who am I? What am I? What is this? And then, of course, he's framed for killing the king and he can also use magic in this society. Magic is running out. So he runs away, and the kingdom, they're freaking out because they have to find this guy who they think is part of this grand elf conspiracy to completely annihilate them. And they send his brother after him, his adopted brother, and the adopted brother, he wrestles with duty. He wants to save his country. His country is it's going down, a lot of corruption, magic is failing, and he thinks, well, if I bring my brother back, my brother knows how to do magic. Maybe he can restore the kingdom and make everything right. But realistically, they're not gonna. He's not gonna survive, and he has to realize that your brother. If you bring him back, you might restore the kingdom, but it'll probably kill your brother. So he's torn between duty and family. And Kavik is trying to figure out to learn the secrets of magic so he can stop the conspiracy and all this. And it's these two brothers who they sort of love each other, even though they're dysfunctional. And they're on this collision course through the whole thing. And there's a little bit of spirituality in it as well. Jessom has more of a traditional monotheistic religious mindset. Kavik goes through the more spiritual, new agey kind of path as well. And I'm respectful to both of them as they're exploring different ideas as well. I really thought of Game of Thrones versus The Alchemist where the alchemist is this like Santiago is walking through the alchemist. Everything just seems to go his way. He has a few little blip problems there. How would he do in Westeros with the Game of Thrones style world? I don't know if he would survive very long in there. And likewise, Game of Thrones, I loved Game of Thrones, but it just seemed very, very dark, very caustic. Would I personally have the courage if I was in that world? Would I be able to act in a morally upright manner and do the responsible thing? And that's what I've tried to have my characters do in this particular book. So I'm proud of how it's turned out. Again, it's the book that I've been wanting to write for years, and I finally managed to do it. And I'm already working on the sequels and a few other books as well.
Well, that's very exciting. What age range are your characters?
They're about 18 to 19. It
Okay, so it's adult fantasy then, right?
I would say principally adult. It can go into some YA, or I think there's a new adult category that a little bit topsy-turvy in terms of how they define themselves. It's accessible by YA, but it's principally adult. So,
Okay, yeah. So,
so
but the
yeah.
characters are adult ages, so yeah.
Yeah, I have one version right now where there is swearing and tons of profanity, and then I think, well, I could do fantasy swearing where a lot of those words are transformed into oh, darkness. And they say that kind of thing to each other. Oh, I can't
Well,
believe
right,
we
because
watch your language, young man.
if you're in a
So,
magical world that didn't know, are people are they humans? Are they like futuristic humans, or is it a completely different society?
it's well, I can reveal this because it's basically in the prologue of the book, but this is a completely artificially created world that is
Okay.
in a pocket dimension that is completely cut off from the rest of the universe. So there are no stars in the night sky. The person who is running it, she believes that the whole universe was destroyed and they're it. And she's kind of trapped in this endless prison of eternal night. She can't even die. And she's kind of being forced by this extra dimensional creature. No, we got to keep making people. We have to keep creating societies to try to spark the creation again. And the prologue opens up with she's made yet another society, yet another one of these, clones of the Middle Ages. And she's even, taken away nuclear power and chemical power to try to keep them at a lower technological level. But she's lost control of them. She can't, they're not just automatons for her. She's trying to control them and they break out of the control. And the idea is, even though this is a created reality according to certain rules, everyone's breaking the rules because maybe that ghost in the machine, maybe they're not just the simulacrums. Maybe they're not fake. Maybe there's some reality to them as well. So it has the vestiges of a traditional fantasy with the castles and whatnot, but underneath it, there's a little bit of space magic where that's kind of the reason why this is all there. And they have to see if they can dig down to that underlying arc that's running everything. And
Interesting. Yeah. Well, so then you wouldn't have those traditional curse words that we use. You would have their own language curse words,
yep,
right?
yep, for sure.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun. And it sounds like a very rich world where, you could go on writing this forever.
I think I could. I've got five planned, a couple others as well. And I mean, obviously, I want people to read them, but I believe that not even, I'm not supposed to say this, but not even money or fame. I just want as many people to read it as I can because I believe that characters can only really live in the imaginations of readers, preferably as many readers as possible. And it's almost meta in a way because the characters in this story are artificially created in the story. But the more people in real life who read them and imagine them, maybe they're kind of making them real. It's getting kind of weird now.
It's a real
But
character now,
I
right?
like it. Yeah, that's
If it
weird.
goes in a book, if it's written down somewhere, even electronically, I think, well, they're not real, physically real, but they're real in someone's mind. So that makes them, I count it as real.
There you go.
Yeah. My character's real to me because if something happens to them, I'm gonna cry. And if something good is happening, I'm gonna be elated. And whenever a reader emails me and says, "Oh, I love this," or "I love this," it makes me so happy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
That's very exciting. And it sounds like you didn't have any formal training in writing either.
No, I didn't take any courses. I had a degree in English literature, so I got to study the classics of literature, mostly just reading. But I did get to a point where I realized I was plateauing as a writer, and thankfully I got some feedback. Writers of the Future, Dave Farland, he gave me a little feedback years ago. A few magazines, some editors gave me some feedback as well. This is working, this isn't working. For me, it was pacing, dialogue, a few things. My stories were rich, my writing was good, but people found it kind of slow. So I would take all this feedback and I would just search out courses, books, workshops, a lot of great books, even Scene and Sequel saved me. This idea that most novels, any kind of work is broken into scenes where you have a clear character who wants a goal, something gets in the way of that goal. The character has this whoa, this psychological upheaval where whoa, oh no, what's going on? And then they come down from that into okay, now how am I going to get this goal? New plan, plan B. Let's do this. And that kind of, action, reaction, cause and effect, chain after the other. And usually you want to end a scene with some kind of reveal or even a cliffhanger, or something going into the next scene. Little things like that I started to learn and piece them together bit by bit. And now I mean, I have a professional credit. It's one right now. Writers of the Future. It's great. Hopefully, the first of many to come.
Right.
But
So you just have to piece all those scenes together so they follow the arc of the story and get your characters where they want you to be, right? Or where,
absolutely,
yeah, they
and
want you
hopefully
to be,
each one
not
is.
where you want them to be, right?
But I had a lot of wasted space as well. Things that looked pretty, that sounded nice, and I thought, well, there's a whole arc to this novel. That what am I learning about this character? That he likes stew? Like, no, get rid of that. All right, unless he has some, it's like maybe that stew was the last thing that his mother made before she walked out and was eaten by orcs or something. Okay, you could have the stew in there, but other than that, unless we're learning something big about the character or that stew was actually poisoned and he's about to serve it to the king, and unless there's something big about that, get it out of there. Just get it out. And I learned how to do that. Cull my darlings, as they say, and it's a much leaner narrative now. Everything focuses on that. Um, Even dialogue I got better with as well. People would say, dialogue can be very hard to write because you kind of want to write it natural, but you also want to write almost dialogue plus, like the kind of thing that it's not the conversation you're having now, it's the conversation that you wish you had when you're, going to bed or in the shower, 2 hours later, like, oh, I wish I had said that. And that's kind of what you want to do for dialogue. But even then, don't tinker with it too much because if you know a character really well and you know their particular voice, just write in their voice and then kind of back up. And that's what I was doing for a few stories recently as well. I think I was, especially with my one story that was rejected in the third quarter for Writers of the Future, I was polishing and over polishing and going too much. And you can it's almost like sanding off your enamel. If you brush your teeth too much or anything like that, over polishing can be the death of a story. But these are just some of the things I've learned. I'm still learning every day, trying to acquire even more knowledge.
Yeah, I feel like every time I take a course, it kind of, yeah, it gives me, but it also gets me excited and to try the new craft and I get an idea for a new story where I can launch something. So just I don't
Absolutely.
know if that's how you come away from some of those courses feeling like.
Oh yeah, and I can learn from anything now. And I used to think when I was first starting out, I thought, oh, this is way too big for me. I can't even begin to wrap my head around this. And then when I was in the middle, that was the most dangerous period where I started to think I was, oh, I get this whole writing thing now, and what could I possibly learn from this book or that? But now that I'm a little more experienced, I realize I can learn from anything. Even if it's something that theoretically I've already learned, there could be some little angle that will suddenly make everything clear. And I'll give you one example. I was down in Hollywood with the Writers of the Future workshop, and Tim Powers, one of our coordinating judges there, he talked about how to brainstorm a story and how to create some ideas for it. And he just mentioned you can, don't think in your head, don't think even with your voice, unless you're recording it, think with your fingers on the laptop. Do this stream of consciousness, just write whatever you need to, even if you're literally typing in the word I don't know, this is weird. Uh, get that out there. And then at the end of that, you're going to have this big mess of stuff that might not be very good. And then Jody Lynn Nye, the other coordinating judge right next to him, said, and don't stop when you get something good. You want to keep going. Because sometimes when oh, that's a good idea, I'll work with that. You get tunnel vision on that. You lock in on it, as the kids would say. Um, and you might be missing a gold mine just a little bit over the horizon if you keep pecking away at it, keep, working away. And these are just, again, I'm learning something new every day. It's I could go on, but I don't. It's every single tidbit of writing information can be useful, even if it just causes me to reflect on something I think I already know and ask myself, am I really using this effectively?
Interesting. Yeah, I was gonna say that brainstorming sounds like the old fashioned, we used to get like the pages, the blank pages or the chalkboard in a group of people and you're asking the whole group, well, tell us all your ideas. No idea is a bad idea. And so you just write them all down and then,
Hmm.
the group will decide which ones are the top three or something like that. So
Oh
the
yeah,
group in your head.
yeah, and I tell my students in your brainstorming, it really is quantity over quality, because the idea you think is ridiculous today yeah, maybe it's ridiculous, but you might need some critical piece to make a story work a year from now, or even just a few months from now. And you look at that and think, yes, yes, I need springy shoes. That'll make that scene work, and off you go, right? So for
Definitely.
sure.
So are you a teacher then? You're a student and
Oh
you
yeah,
still
yeah. I
are.
teach high school English. I've been teaching that for about 20 years now, and I've taught all kinds of stuff, everything from phys ed to kids in middle school, so they're all doing like Fortnite emotes. I'm just trying to get them to line up. We'll play some dodgeball or some basketball. They're every basket they would start doing emotes. I just, okay, all right, you go ahead. It's physical activity, right? What can you do?
Definitely.
And now I'm at a high school where I'll go in tomorrow, and we've just finished Hamlet, and we're going to get into The Great Gatsby as well. So I love reading literature, especially something like Hamlet, where there's so many different potential meanings. It's I've got the dream job right now. It's taken a few years to get there, but it really is nice being a teacher, seeing the kids grow and develop.
Oh, fun. Yeah. I hinted I was going to be a teacher for like 5 minutes in my life. And one of my first interviews, the person said, the principal who was interviewing me said, well, you can be the cheerleading coach, right? And I was like, did you see that I have a master's degree in microbiology? Did you see cheerleader anywhere on there? And I was
Oh
like,
yeah,
hey,
I
that
I went
wasn't why
through.
I didn't do it, but
Oh, I know. It's
it was quite comical.
I was a supply teacher for many years and just waiting every day for that phone to ring. And as a supply teacher, it's really rough. And then I would do contract work where at the end of the contract, you're out, and
Mm.
hopefully you get a new contract. And we call that long-term occasional or LTO. And I wasn't the cheerleader coach, but I was involved in yearbook, anime club, creative writing club. They roped me into rugby. Thank goodness the contract ended before they started playing games, because I don't know what I would have done when the kids started getting concussions. I don't know. That was terrifying. But I was either coaching or assistant coaching virtually everything I could. I think there was one week where it was almost every single day of the week I was doing something after school. And now I still do some things after school, but now that I'm a permanent teacher in one school, I can pace myself a little bit and, get that work-life balance a little bit better. But yeah, I know you have this big degree in this, and that's great, but we already have many of those. But you can do that uh, and hopefully a few years down the road, but that's a long journey sometimes. Very long
Well,
journey.
and just like your novel, right? From age 18 to what, at least 29, right?
Oh yeah. I wrote the first draft of it when I was mid 20s, and then I shelved it for a while. And then I think it was during COVID that I had a plan now. I realized I wanted to write this book, but I'm not good enough yet. I knew I'm not good enough for this. So I had to go out and acquire all that knowledge. And Great Courses was not bad as well. I had a few things there, how to write bestsellers. The editing one actually helped me because she talked about all the structure, like Save the Cat and all these other, very useful structures that I didn't necessarily photocopy onto my book, but I looked through, was like, okay, these, breaking into two, breaking into three, midpoint crisis, all these potential structures that can actually free your story and make it more palatable to readers. But yeah, I got all of that eventually. And when I was in my early 40s, it took about 3 years, but I got that eventual draft done. And here I am. And I've got,
That's very exciting. Tell everyone where we can find I guess we did say the 41st
there we
volume
go.
of Writers of the
Text is backwards.
Future.
This is available in the US and Canada, bookstores, online, April 22nd.
Okay.
So very, very soon. It's going to drop momentarily. I believe it's June 18th worldwide. So if you're outside of the US and Canada, you'll be able to find it there. Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, Indigo chapters for us here in Canada. Uh, Pretty much anywhere it's sold. I think it's also direct online as well. But
Great. And what is your website if people wanted to find you?
sure, my website is patrickmacphee.com. So MacPhee.com. I'm guilty of it too. I'll say McPhee sometimes, but Patrick MacPhee.
MacPhee.
I have a couple of stories on there. One is about a disgruntled employee who goes into his former place of work, and five people mysteriously die right after he approaches them. And it's on camera. He's caught in 4K, as the kids say. And he's at his trial. That's where the story picks up. And he very confidently pleads not guilty, even though he's very clearly seen doing it. And the reason why he pleads not guilty is because his weapon was his mind. And he says, well, psychic phenomena are impossible. So I couldn't possibly have done that. So he just goes in, stares at people, and they fall
So he
over.
did kill them. He knows he killed them.
Oh, everyone
Okay.
else knows he did too,
Oh,
but
okay,
no one can
but
prove it. And that's the big, it's more philosophical in the courtroom because they ask, if someone actually did that, would he get away with it? Could he just stand up and say, that's impossible? So that story, I wrote that a few years ago. That's free on the website. I have another one about time travel and beer, where a couple of guys have a bet, and one guy says time travel's impossible because we haven't met a time traveler yet. You'd think at least in the whole of human history, one time travel from the infinite future would have come back and said, "Hey, I'm a time traveler," but not one came back. So the guy thinks he's won this bet and he's reaching for the $100 that they bet. And of course, a time traveler interrupts them. And he just, what? He just has this moment. That's a bit of a comedy as well. I guess, I don't know. I like time travel. Whenever I think of time travel, I just start to giggle. So I guess it turns into a comedy every time, but I like it. But yeah, those stories are free on there if anyone wants to see them.
that's awesome. Yeah, it's great to have preview of authors' work. So thank you so much for being here. I hope you'll come back once your novel actually publishes and tell us more about that in the rest of the series. And again, this is Patrick MacPhee at Patrick MacPhee, MacPhee.com, correct?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Patrick. Bye.
Bye-bye. Have a good night.
You too.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Finding the Magic podcast. I'm your host, author and podcaster Tricia Copeland, and I love getting behind the scenes. If you like the podcast, make sure to subscribe and stop in each week to discover new authors and books. Thanks for listening, and until next time, keep finding the magic.